welcome to another video. I'm going to service it today. This process applies to pretty much any classic car. So far in the series I've done a lot of welding. I've done a lot of work to the brakes. I did put it in for an MOT. It failed unfortunately on a couple of bits of welding that I missed. Tiny little holes, which I've done now. Also failed on the passenger seat being insecure, seatbelt being jammed. So dealt with all of that. And yeah, it's now MOT'd with no advisories, not even an advisory, which I think is the only car I've got without an advisory at the moment. The first thing I need to do is run it up to temperature, get the engine oil nice and warm. I don't know when it was last done, so I think it's pretty thick. The last time the car was on the road was, in fact, that's when the last tax disc ran out. June 2000, 23 years ago. So I can only assume that was the last time it had a service, was around then. Put it up in the air and we'll go through a little minor service. Right, oil is draining. That is a imperial equivalent to a 19mm bolt, little tiny bolt there. It's not too bad. It hasn't come out as thick as I thought. So while I'm under here, while that is draining, before we do the oil filter, I'm going to show you the grease nipples, because we're going to go over those in a moment. So we've got one there. There is one on the top, at the back, and on the track rod end, which I've shown before. Same on this side. One on the bottom. I can't see the one. I'll show you one on the top in a moment. One on the track rod end. The top ones you can see there, and possibly up there. And then underneath we have, I turn the prop shaft, you can see there's one just there, and another one on the other end of the prop shaft, just there, and one on each parking brake cable. If there are any that I've missed, and anyone on the interwebs knows that I've missed one, please comment and I will pin a post. I am known for forgetting stuff like that. So, oil filter. So let's undo this. Now I don't know, I've not done this before. I don't know if this is a bolt holding the whole canister on or if this is just a drain bung. So we will find out. There is a little washer in there. It's a long bolt, I'm guessing that's holding the whole canister on. Right, and that's pretty much how the oil has looked coming out. A bit gloopy, but it's not too bad. Considering this could have been there for 23 years, I was expecting worse. As you can see in there, it's pretty sludgy. So I'm going to clean it out with some brake cleaner. I've got a washer there, spring came out. Here's my filter, but yeah, it doesn't look great in there. So good thing we're changing it. I've cleaned up the oil filter housing, and if we look up here, you can see I've put the new seal in up here. This comes with the filter. So I have been very careful as I've pulled this off not to take anything out of there. There's a set of springs and washers and stuff inside there. So if you take it off, I don't want to drop that. If you take this off, make sure you remember which order the washer's going. So only thing left to do, chuck the filter on and wind it back in. Right, that looks about right. So over here, I put down my drain plug. There's a little tiny copper washer on there, so I'm just going to replace that and then we'll wind. So that is the washer that just came off of my sump plug. How on earth that was holding oil, I don't know, but it's all lit back in. Next thing we're going to do is gearbox. So at the bottom rear here, we've got this drain plug. Oh, that's thick. That's very thick. It doesn't look too bad though. It's fairly clean. I'm not convinced that that's in. It is supposed to be engine oil. I have double checked. It is supposed to be 2050 engine oil. So when it comes to filling, I'll show you that quickly. Now, it's apparently easier to do from inside the car. There is, where did I say it? There's a bung just there. I'll highlight it in the video. And opposite it is the fill bung. There you go, you can see it there. Filling up the gearbox level. You'll notice that this seat is behind a cover. That's because I've bought some new seats. These are out of a Mark II Golf. I haven't fitted it yet, it's not bolted in, but it's also damp, hence the cover. But they work really well. I've got a whole set. That will be coming in a later video, probably in a few months' time. So anyway, gearbox oil. Lift this bit of cover up, this bit of carpet. There's your bung. Now, I'm hoping, because of the age of it, that it will come out. There we are. And if you can see in there, that is our, I did crack it off and leave it loose. That's our fill point. There we go. So what I'm going to do is grab a funnel and a piece of hose and sit there filling the gearbox until it overflows. Which rhymes. As you can see, this is a really slow process. We are slowly filling the gearbox. We've got probably about another ½ litre to go. I am in a really uncomfortable position here, as you can probably see. So while I'm doing this, I thought I'd quickly mention my new shop. There are lots of Patch the Morris Minor stuff. There's hoodies, t-shirts in various colours. There's also the oil leak, I prefer to call it rust prevention range of t-shirts, hoodies and mugs. And there's also the mildly controversial petrol versus electric range, t-shirts, hoodies and different colour mugs. So do go check them out. If you feel like supporting the channel, then yeah, consider purchasing some. Meanwhile, I'm going to sit here and continue waiting for this to slowly fill. To the rear diff. This square bung here this is the fill and level hole, and there's a drain just under there. Now I have got special tools that I use to do stuff like this. You can also, if you don't have it, use a 3/4 inch ratchet, which is not a perfect fit, but it is enough that you can undo it. Now I'm not expecting anything to come out of here, but stuff does, and it doesn't look too bad. It's a bit dirty, but I was expecting worse. I definitely wasn't expecting that much to come out. Let's undo the drain. That one's tight. Ah, there you go. There's the dirty stuff at the bottom. Look at that sludge on that. Look at that. Nice. Oh, that smells. Manual, well, gearbox oil, diff oil, it's all the same, similar stuff. It has a smell, and when you smell it, you'll know. And when it goes old, the smell gets worse. Yeah, that's running through cleaner now, so good thing we did this. All the dirt had obviously sat to the bottom of the diff because it hasn't really gone anywhere, hasn't been mixed up, and it's the same with the gearbox. That's why the first lot that came out looked very dirty. Yeah, again, I'm going to wait a little while for this stuff to drain, make sure I get as much out as possible. Right, so it's all back together. I've cleaned the drain bung. I've also cleaned the fill bung with a wire brush. Not a great job, but it's a lot more presentable. And cleaned all of the crud from the bottom of the plug. So it's actually EP90 oil that you need to use. And will that fit in? No, it won't fit in there. So I'm going to have to probably use, oh no, well, just. So yeah, just a case of fill it up. I'm just going to squeeze through here. It's not ideal. The filler bit doesn't quite fill the hole in the diff. But I'm going to keep going until it all runs out. Grease gun. My one is air powered. You can also get some with levers. These grease nipples do look a bit old and rusty. If this doesn't work, I'll have to undo the grease nipple and clean it out with a pin. I'm tempted not to even start with that one. This one looks mildly better. So I basically just push the end over, pump grease in. My compressor is a little bit low, and then if we keep an eye, we should see grease come out Oh, there you go. Just there, loads of grease come out. So we'll wipe that down in a moment. But that is literally as simple as it is. Let's do the other bottom one, see whether that's rusted through or not. So put the pipe on. Oh yeah, I think that one's rusted because it's stuck because it's all coming out from there. So I will have to undo that one and clean it out and then do all the others. All right, we're back down. I always tend to leave the cap like loose so while I'm draining because it allows air to get back in. So you don't get that glug, glug, glug sort of thing. It just flows. Little top tip. So yeah, fill point. I have also added a breather, which is some fuel hose, because that's all I could find. What else you need to know? Dipstick. Dipstick is hidden down here. Filling it up is pretty simple. Cap off. I've already made a hole in this one. And can I do this one-handed? Maybe, maybe not. This could end in tears. This is about to end in tears. There we go. It's going to take a while, but fill it up till it's on the dipstick. Right, we're about there. So I'll pull the dipstick out. You can see the max line, and if I wipe that, you can now see the min line. So we're kind of somewhere between the two. What I'm going to do now is run the engine. We've got to fill up the oil filter housing because obviously that's now dry, and then we'll refill it again and get it to the max level, and then the oil level should then be fine. So if I put the ignition on, this light here is our oil pressure light. So when we crank it, that's going to stay on a bit longer than normal while the oil pressure builds up, and then it should go out. Should go out. There we go. Had me worried for a minute then. I don't know if you heard the knocking. That's where we had low oil pressure. The ignition light, by the way, was already on. My next video is going to be doing an alternator conversion because I've tried 2 dynamos on this and both of them are faulty. But yeah, that's sounding pretty sweet actually. All right, final dip. And look at that, absolutely bang on the max. Perfect. Put that back in there. We are done. So all we've got left in this series then is alternator conversion and test drive. So exciting times. I'm going to try and knock all of them out before the end of January, so make sure you are subscribed. Check out my shop, link down below. See you next time.